Hello and welcome to Authors in Espresso. I'm your host, Nadia Gilkes, and we are here with another festival flashback. This week, we are revisiting my interview with Joel Plummer, who is an American rarity, a Black male educator. We journeyed through his first novel, Sumo Wrestlers and Supermodels, what 20 years of teaching has taught me about saving Black children from American schools. It was a great conversation about his experience in the educational system and a little bit about his writing and publishing journey. Let's take a listen. I am so excited to bring Joel Plummer to the stage. He, as well, is another Black male educator. Yay, I found two of them. He has been in education for over 20 years. He is an alumni of and professor at Rutgers University. But last night, he told me even before all of that, he went to daycare at Rutgers University. So literally, it has been his entire life. He is also a successful photojournalist with work featured on ESPN, the LA Times, the Wall Street Journal, and several other prominent media outlets. He is here today to discuss his brand new book, and I love this cover, so I've got to show it. Sumo Wrestlers and Supermodels, what 20 years of teaching has taught me about saving Black children from American schools. Please help me give a warm welcome to Joel Plummer. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And I just want to start out with the same question I gave Shafiq earlier. Clearly, there's not a lot of Black male teachers because we get the conversation, when did you have your first, or did you ever have a Black male teacher? So what made you go into education, not necessarily having those images to look up to and guide you?
Well, it's interesting. Both of my parents are in education. My father was an administrator at Rutgers, and my mother was a kindergarten teacher in the town that I live in. But I had no interest in education whatsoever. It wasn't until my sophomore year of high school, in between my junior and sophomore years of high school, I was in a leadership program for high achieving Black and Latino students at William Patterson University in New Jersey. And one of the things they made us do was teach algebra to middle school students from Newark. And I hate math. I despise math. I have no use for math whatsoever. Like I know the whole world it can be related to math, but it's not for me. And I wasn't into kids either, but it was part of the program, so I had to do it. So I'm teaching my student, I believe her name was Zacchaeus, like 30 years ago now, teaching her how to do solve a basic equation. And I'm only one page ahead of her because, again, I don't do math. But I teach her, let's say it's a Tuesday. Wednesday, she comes back and she's struggling to solve an equation. So I'm sitting next to her, I reach over to try to help. And I say, well, let me show you. And she's like, no, I got it. You taught me this yesterday. And 10 seconds later, she figured it out. And it was the greatest feeling I ever had. I was like, I'm responsible for her knowing something about the world, me. And I hate this subject. So imagine if it was something I actually cared about. And then at that point, since I was 15, I was like, I'm going to come back to my town, a small town in New Jersey, 50,000 people, and almost entirely Black and Latino. But I remember going through 13 years of high school and having read one Black author in my 4 years of honors English. And I had one African-American history course, which taught Black history, but I got very little. And so this was a no-brainer for me. I could combine this feeling of teaching young people new information with history and African-American history, something I'm passionate about.
Wow, that's incredible. And I hear that from teachers a lot. It's that feeling of when you've worked so hard to get someone to understand something, and then you see that light bulb go off, and then they are off to the races. Now, you just recently came out with this book. It's funny, when I found you on Instagram, I liked your content, I heard your videos, and I was like, I have to have them on my stage. And you're like, my book comes out in a week. And I think that was back in November. So it's out now. And you have to tell us about this title, Sumo Wrestlers and Supermodels. What does it mean?
Okay. So, and I, of course, I get this question asked a lot.
It's
So
catchy.
my
That's why
argument,
you sell your book.
that's right. So my argument is this: Black children are suffering in schools because they are being shoehorned into a system that was never designed to meet their needs. Different children have different educational needs, and Black people have unique needs based on their unique socio-historical experiences. So those historical experiences shape the way we view the world and what we still need from the world. So the current one-size-fits-all model of education that's essentially based on what middle to upper class white males need is a dangerous fit for Black kids. And the analogy I use is I say it's as ineffective as having someone that wants to be a supermodel and she's being trained by an expert sumo wrestler coach. So that coach, that teacher is teaching her how to eat like a sumo wrestler, how to dress like a sumo wrestler, how to exercise like a sumo wrestler. But when she goes out with that training, her mismatched training, and to face her real world circumstances on the runway, she's going to be a failure. Same thing, vice versa. You have someone that wants to be a sumo wrestler and they're being trained by someone that's an expert in creating supermodels. That sumo wrestler is eating like a supermodel, dressing like a supermodel, has the mentality of a supermodel. When he steps into the ring, he's going to get obliterated. And I argue that's what's been happening to Black children for decades, that they've been obliterated by having this mismatched education that doesn't match their real world circumstances.
That is powerful. I love that. Now that you've explained it out, I totally get it. It makes perfect sense. So, in your 20 years of education, how have you been able to affect change from the inside?
You know, it's interesting, and it kind of leads me to why I wrote this book. When I was a young teacher, I was happy just having a good classroom, right? I'm nailing it in my classroom. I go home feeling great. Kids had a great experience in my classroom. And ashamed of it now when I think about my past self. Kids would say stuff to me like, Mr. Plummer, your class is the only reason why I came to school today. And as a young teacher, I'm like, yeah, I'm killing it. But as I got older, I'm like, wow, that's horrible. My class is 45 minutes long. That means for the other 6 hours or so, you feel like your time is being absolutely wasted. And so I no longer felt satisfied. And I was doing a great job in my classroom, helping kids get to college. I was being that teacher that every teacher dreams to be of, the teacher that everyone wants to be around, and it inspires the kids. But it wasn't satisfying anymore just to be able to affect my little room. And so I realized I need a bigger classroom. That's when I started teaching at the college level. And that's when I decided to write a book, because often what happens is schools always have great teachers. But the problem with teachers is no matter how great you are, in about 2 to 3 years, whatever you did once you retire disappears. You're a
Mm.
vapor, because there's this annual event called graduation. And all the work that you did on those people, they leave. And so I've worked with a whole bunch of legendary teachers whose names never get spoken of again.
Mm.
And so when new teachers come in, they have to start from scratch trying to figure out what does it mean to be a good teacher. There's no legacy to attach to. And so what people do to keep their belief systems alive is they do things like create institutions. And so that the ideas of a person can live forever. Not so full of myself that I think an institution should be built around my thoughts. But I figured if I can write a book, I can at least have a set system, breadcrumbs, if you will, for the next generation of teachers to follow, so they don't have to start over all over again. So I can impact future generations even once I stop teaching.
And you are creating your own institution, and it puts into all the other resources that we have out there because we clearly don't have enough. I'm looking in the chat. I see that Rose said she had several African American female teachers, but no male teachers. I see where Lola said she was raised in the Bronx, New York, never had a Black male teacher, never had any Black teachers. So definitely we need these voices, we need these advocates, and you are actually, doing your part to help people along, not just for students, but also for fellow teachers. So when we have our breakout rooms later today, what are we going to experience in your room?
So I'm going to go into more detail about what I mean when I say that Black children have unique needs. So I'm going to go through some of the history that makes the that Black child sitting in the classroom different from his white counterparts, and what that means for what that child needs in the room right now, and the skills and training that they need for the future, and also what parents should be looking for in the teachers that teach their Black children. Just a quick example, I remember being super frustrated this year. We had a Zoom meeting the day after it was clear that Breonna Taylor's killers weren't going to be charged with anything. And our staff meeting and my school is 99.9% Black and Latino that I teach in. And our conversation that morning was about Zoom backgrounds, how we can make sure that kids have more appropriate Zoom backgrounds. And they did a half-hour long discussion about Zoom backgrounds and kids like speaking up in the mic. And meanwhile, I'm like, these kids just got a message sent to them that their lives don't matter, that they can be killed with impunity. And none of us are talking about this.
Right.
And that's the kind of question that parents need to ask. What are you doing to keep my child alive for the next 2-3 decades? So that's the type of thing that we need to talk about, that we will talk about in my breakout room.
I love it. Well, it sounds like that's going to be quite the roundtable discussion. I am so glad that I was able to have you here today. I know that your breakout room is going to be incredible because it's definitely a lot of conversations that need to be had. And I would say, if you do have children out there and you're not really familiar with your child's school system or the teachers, definitely jump into an advocate's room and see what they have to say about you getting involved into your child's life, because it really shouldn't be all on the teachers. Really needs the parents in on it too.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to flash the book one more time, and we've been putting the links in the chat. Sumo Wrestlers and Supermodels by Joel Plummer. Please help me give him a virtual round of applause, and we will see you in just a little bit for your breakout room.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do for children and nurturing our next generations. As you can see, Joel Plummer is a wealth of experience and insight into the school system. That interview was from 2021. I'm excited to announce that we will be checking back in with him at the end of this month for an update on what's been happening since that festival. He is the author of a new book, Black Kid, White School: What They Don't Teach Your Black Child, Volume 1. So be sure to tune in a few weeks as we revisit and catch up with Joel Plummer. This is another episode of Authors in Espresso. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll chat with you later.